Welcome back. This is Chicken Philosophy, the Meccan Revelations, part 33, in which I will pick up right where somebody left off last time, BT, I think. You might have noticed that today is our Christmas episode. Now, you might be thinking, Gwydion, it's October 21st. It's not even Halloween yet. It's far too early to put up Christmas decorations, and I respect your right to have your opinion. However, my house, my rules. No, actually, what it is that today you might have noticed the green and red. So for these 15, we're on part 5 of 15, so only 10 more after this where we're focused on the color. I'm not going to spend... Last time was blue and white, and we spent literally half the episode talking about blue and white. I'm not going to do that this time. We're going to be much more brief. Green and red are the colors of Christmas, and so that's why you're hearing Christmas music right now. That's why there was that weird thing with the green. My hat wasn't always blue. Anyway, so yeah, if those who were watching this visually saw me substantially younger than I am today, wearing a different hat that was green and red, and that was the beginning of a Christmas carol that I sort of sang, you might say. And if you're interested, you can hear the whole thing. Hark the herald angels sing, to the tune of the creepy little girls doing jump rope in Nightmare on Elm Street. It makes sense intuitively. Anyway, so what else besides Christmas? Oh, let's just get this done with here. Here we've got a little red Christmas tree ornament. It's a little dusty. Sorry about that. So we'll just put that. Stop wagging. We'll put that right there for the duration of the episode. And now you might be saying, Gwydion, why is that a green Buddha? Well, there's a number of reasons, not the least of which is not sure where I put the Christmas ornaments last year, and this red one just happened to be out and about. But also, in addition, Amoghasiddhi is the green-skinned of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, and Amoghasiddhi, in a certain context, is associated with Maitreya, who we all know, not Maitreya from the Lotus Sutra, the one that Manjushri was explaining everything to in the intro. This is Manjushri, the Buddha yet to come, the only bodhisattva recognized in Theravada. Never mind. Anyway, so there's an association, in one certain thin context association between Amoghasiddhi, who had green skin and was a Buddha, and Maitreya, who was the Buddha yet to come, prophesied to come 5,000 years after Lord Buddha in the 6th century BC. However, there is a theory I've heard from Kess Fry. He told me this theory, and I assume he's not the only one who has it. But at the very least, it is a theory that they got the decimal wrong, and he was actually scheduled to come 500 years after Siddhartha Gautama, and was in fact our Lord Jesus. So if that's true, if Amoghasiddhi is Maitreya and Maitreya is Jesus, then this green Buddha is in fact Jesus, which makes him a perfect addition to our Christmas episode. Now, some of you might be thinking, hey, Gwydion, aren't you reading the Meccan Revelations today? What does Islam have to do with Jesus or Christianity? And oh, you sweet summer child, the greatest prophet in Islam is indeed the Prophet Muhammad, blessed be he. The third greatest prophet, you might know, his name is John the Baptist. And the second greatest prophet is also, in the Quran, referred to as the Messiah, and he was Jesus. Didn't you realize how closely related Islam is to mainstream Christianity? Basically, you could make an argument, I'm not going to make this argument, but the argument could be made that there is very, very little difference between Islam and the Church of Mormon. The two differences, the way they treat women is exactly the same. That's not different. And another thing that's exactly the same is that there are fundamentalists, FLDS on one hand, ISIS on the other, who are a big problem. But there are many, many, many progressive Muslims and Mormons who, while there is still a lot of work to be done before they could be said to be as appropriate in today's world as the secular humanist New Agers like you and I, yeah, they're fine. And so we're diving in and finding the baby so that the baby doesn't get thrown out with the bathwater, and learning about the core tenets of Islam. We're not going to do Mormonism here. So there's one difference, but that's not one of the differences I was going to mention. One difference is that they're 1,200 years apart, or 1,100 years apart. So Joseph Smith was obviously copying the Prophet Muhammad, blessed be he. The other difference is that Joseph Smith put forth the idea that, yes, there was John the Baptist, and then there was Jesus, and then there was me, Joseph Smith, and also God told me that there's a certain special je ne sais quoi, a certain special something that makes one group of humans superior to all the others, and you can tell by the blonde hair and blue eyes. So that was Joseph Smith. And you could say that Muhammad implied something similar about Middle Eastern folks or the Arabs, you might say. So that is the difference, that and the time. So that's also the reason why one is generally accepted among the, you might say, conservatives in the places like the United States, and the other is less compatible on account of the type of racism in the older forms of each of those things. Have I said too much? Yeah, so we're listening to Christmas music because it's the Christmas-themed episode. Another thing, real quick, before we get started, another thing that's red and green. Those are considered flashing colors, which in the particular context of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn will usually 99% of the time mean they're opposite colors. They're opposite on the color wheel. And so they're used together, and that helps to kind of make an astral current present in the physical, to the physical eyes. And so you'll find green letters on red things if they're of a nature of fire or Mars, and you'll find red letters on green things if they're usually of a nature of Venus or Netzach. And so one of the things that you'll find is the Egyptian headdress or nemes and robe of the imperator of the temple he wears red for Givura, and a red and green nemes. And of course the original imperator was, there he is, our old buddy S.L. McGregor Mathers, also known as Greatly Honored Frater DDCF. I hope I got that right. And our own greatly honored Frater BT is the current wearer of his old ring, if you didn't know. There's a whole episode about that on BT's Esoteric Nerd podcast called Mather's Ring. And don't worry about clicking that right now, because that's going to be the end screen of today's episode. And speaking of endings of things, that's the ending of me rambling on about the color scheme for today, because we're going to get to the reading. Are you ready? So, if you remember, we're talking about the saints among Sufis and how they go through different phases in their development where they'll take on attributes and then leave those attributes behind, which of course makes me reflect on all the phases I've been through in my life. There was when I was learning Hebrew and I was going to have a bar mitzvah and I had a Jewish stepdad, and then eventually there was the divorce, and then I got into Wicca and kind of left all that stuff behind, but I retained a certain something. One of them was the blue yarmulke that BT still wears, and the other was a knowledge of Hebrew that only got developed upon, built upon, layers added upon. So in the case when I look at my own life, not to compare myself to Sufi Saints, but if the shoe fits, right? You go through something, you come out the other side, but you keep something with you. You retain a certain essence and maybe a few things, ideas, and memories at least from the phase you went through. And then there was the Gardnerian Wicca phase, and surely there are things that I've retained from then. Then there were the 18 and a half years in Golden Dawn, and the current manifestation of BT as co-host of Chicken Philosophy and sometimes host of Esoteric Nerd podcast is the essence, the je ne sais quoi that I've retained from those years. And my accent I've retained from California, even though I've left that behind. Anyway, let's see. So he's in the middle of talking about servitude. So servitude as a phase that saints go through. Continuing where we left off last time. No one has realized this station to its perfection. Like the messenger of God. Editor Edward, can we put on something from that Café de Anatolia? Thank you. It's just the Christmas music. It was fun, but for the whole episode, I don't know. It's too much. And could you put the link to that track? I'm not going to make you go on the screen today. I'll try not to. All right, and just with the card or an image of what that episode is, or the track. And there's also a link in the description. There's also a link to the Christmas music from the London Symphony Orchestra or whatever. Continuing. No one has realized this station to its perfection like the messenger of God. That's the Prophet Muhammad, of course. For he was an utter servant who renounced those states which would have removed him from the level of servanthood. God gives witness that he was a servant of him both in respect of his he-ness and his all-comprehensive name. He-ness, not so coincidentally, rhymes with meanness, which is when someone isn't very good at English and they see the word menus and they go, what's a meanness? That rhymes with he, H-E-N-E-S-S. Not to be confused with NES. That's an acronym for Nintendo Entertainment System. Sorry. He says concerning his name, quote, when the servant of Allah stood calling on him, end quote, Quran 72:19. And he says concerning his heinous, quote, glory to him who carried his servant by night, end quote, Quran 17:1. So he carried him by night as a servant. When he was commanded to instruct concerning his station on the day of resurrection, he qualified that, for he said, quote, I am the Lord of the children of Adam, without boasting. End quote. When I say, I don't mean to brag, but that's English for this. Without boasting. I don't want to brag, but sorry. Reading Fakhr, F-A-K-H-R, Fakhr? I don't know how to pronounce that. With an R. In other words, quote, I do not aim to boast before you about my lordship. On the contrary, I wish to instruct you as good news to you, since you are commanded to follow me. End quote. This has also been read as fakhz, F-A-K-H-Z, with a Z, right? Okay, i.e., end quote, quote, without bluffing, end quote. I don't mean to bluff, but I've got a really good hand here, and I'm gonna raise the ante. You want to fold? Please fold. I've only got a pair of twos. That's, never mind. End quote. I do not say this by way of bluffing. I am not like that. End quote. Oh, there was a quote. For fakhz is to boast of falsehood as if it were true. The relationship of the servant with God in the state of servanthood is like that of a shadow with the person, bracket parentheses, who throws it, and bracket parentheses. I think that's an old-timey way of saying, like, who cast it. Like, to throw a shadow. You don't really say that in English these days, do you? But whoever translated this into English was under the assumption that you did. Anyway, before a lamp. The closer he moves toward the lamp, the greater is the shadow. There is no proximity to God except through that which is more specifically your attribute, not his. That explains King David, right? Sorry. God Knows is a good book. The more the person moves away from the lamp, the smaller the shadow becomes. For nothing moves you away from God except your leaving aside those attributes of which you are worthy and your coveting his attributes. Maybe that'll make sense later when I'm listening to myself say it. Quote, even so does God set a seal on every proud and tyrannical heart. End quote, Quran 40:35. These are two attributes that belong to God. Quote, taste, you are mighty. The generous, Quran 44:49. This, bracket parentheses, situation, and bracket parentheses, is, bracket parentheses, referred to in, end bracket parentheses, the prophet's words, quote within quotes, or something, I seek refuge in thee from thee. End quote. This station does not leave you with any attribute which belongs exclusively and solely to God, and in which sharing cannot be achieved, i.e., bracket parentheses, it leaves you with none of, end bracket parentheses, the affirmative, not the negative, or correlative attributes, without this being known specifically by the possessor of this station, but its possessor tasting, with a capital T, is rare. For when you realize and stand alone in your most specific attributes, and when you enter upon God through them, he faces you only with his most specific attributes with a capital A, to which you have no access. But when you come with the shared attributes, he appears in theophany to you with the bracket parentheses same and bracket parentheses shared attributes. So you come to know the mystery of his relation to you through your relation to him. This is an astonishing science. You will find few who taste it. Yet it lies below the first, which is the most specific for you. So know this and realize this station, for this will be given to you by the station of servanthood. As for the station of servitude, you will not know the sciences that you actualize through it, for within it you annihilate ascription to him and to engendered existence, that is, created existence. That's something I've learned since starting to read Meccan Revelations. I didn't know what that meant before. Now I do. Back in Meccan Revelation Part 8, I was a fool. Now I am wise. It's kind of fun It's fun if you let it be fun to look at how foolish you were 6 months ago, let alone 10 years ago, and then reflect on the fact that who you are today is someone that 6 months from now or 10 years from now, you'll look back and go, oh, what a fool I was. Maybe, I don't know. You'll have more wrinkles in the brain, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Brain, saying, does that rhyme? Eminem? This is an extremely rare station, for the tribe cannot allow that engendered existence should subsist in its possibility without ascription, since it is inherently, quote, necessary through the other, end quote. That which alerts one to this station is the fact that within the locus of manifestation, the manifest is described by the attribute of the servant, for the manifest becomes colored by the reality of the locus of manifestation, whatever this may be. But the manifest, with a capital M, does not trace its origin to servanthood, for there is nothing lower than the latter. Not the ladder, the latter, like as in Day Saints. Callback to earlier. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot the incense, which means I haven't yet done the Boy George Culture Club thing. It'll make sense. So yeah, just a little diversion. So here, of course, you might remember those longtime viewers of Meccan Revelation on chicken philosophy. This is the oud that comes in the gold package. So now on the screen we have red, gold, and green. Red, gold, and green. Hodos chameleonis, Karmas chameleonis. Something. All right. Thank you, the Culture Club. Am I ever going to find where we were just then? Sorry about that. Manifest becomes colored by the yes, but the manifest doesn't. Yes. Latter, that which traces its origin to something must be lower in level than that thing. Let me just start the sentence over again rather than stopping in the middle of the sentence for a little musical number and then getting back, starting in the middle of the sentence. The beginning of the sentence, but the manifest does not trace its origin to servanthood, for there is nothing lower than the latter, and that which traces its origin to something must be lower in level than that thing. Oh, let's have a little fun. What is lower, the chicken or the egg? Ouroboros hierarchy. The president serves the people. The generals serve the president, the people. Never mind. Yes, right. No wonder it doesn't work. But the manifest, yes, we already read that just now. But the manifest only traces its origin to that thing to which it is ascribed, since the effect given to the manifest by the entity of the locus of manifestation is nothing other than the manifest, with a capital M, just to remind you. M, manifest. Every time I say manifest, it has a capital M, which I love, because you capitalize God, you capitalize He when you're talking about God, and you capitalize Thee when you're talking about God. So the fact that they're capitalizing manifest has very nice connotations for me that are pagan, or would generally be considered pagan, I think, by someone who thinks that. Never mind. Quote, there is no goal beyond God, end quote, but a thing cannot be ascribed to itself, hence servitude, in quotes, does not have the E of ascription. It is said, quote, a man between servanthood and servitude, end quote, i.e., since his essence is manifest, but his ascription is unknown, so he is not ascribed, since there is no, quote, to so-and-so, end quote, so he is a servant / non-servant, like slash the grammatic, the punctuation mark, not like, I'm saying that servants should / non-servants, that would be class warfare, wouldn't it? Okay, so this next part is called Concerning the Station of Abandoning Servanthood. I wanted to at least get to the beginning of this because just to emphasize that concept that was put forth earlier and that I made reference to at the beginning of the recital here today, that, yeah, when a saint takes up a station, they later abandon the station, right? So there you have it. All right. More sort of a Gen X-y compatible thing rather than a silent generation thing. Dad. Sorry. Nobody talks about the gender war between the silent generation and the Gen Xers. Maybe because there wasn't one, or because just it's quiet. It's not online. The silent generation isn't really doing anything except for being who they were meant to be, manifesting, being the, gosh, how old are they now? They're getting up there. Hats off to the silent generation folk in the audience. I wouldn't take my hat off, though, because then I'd be Edward, and we don't want him here today. No, sirree. But there was something. So, yeah, the whole, what? You got a green Buddha, and you're saying it's Jesus, which is in Islam, so you got a Buddha in Islam, and so even though it's, like, not that related, I'm gonna let Edward respond. Mine is the sort of Hinduism that embraces great masters, sages, and holy men like Lord Buddha, Mahavir, Guru Nanak, the Prophet Muhammad, and of course our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Just because that's a good clip. That was part of the end of the Martin Luther, the initial, the pilot episode of the Martin Luther series here that I'm always trying to get people to watch, but nobody watches. If you trace your origin to an effect to which you belong to God, not creation. So consider yourself rebuked. What? Let's try that again. If you trace your origin to an effect to which you belong to God, not creation. So, okay, I get it now. I get it. It took me two things. I'll explain because it's weird. Okay, if you trace your origin to an effect to which you belong, like, for example, I am a Gen Xer, I am a male human, I am white, I am an expat. Oh, I hate that word. I emigrated. I'm not a fucking expat, unless everybody's an expat. If somebody moves from Syria to Germany and you call them an expat, then I'm an expat. But if they're an immigrant and I'm an expat, you're a racist. It's a fact, an objective fact. Self-reflect on that. Keep an eye on your terms. Sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, no, so, okay, if you trace your origin to an effect to which you belong. So it's not saying, if you do that, then you belong to God. It's saying, if you do that, then these words are for you. You belong to God, not creation, so consider yourself rebuked. It's saying, if you consider yourself like, right, if you identify yourself with some aspect of creation, consider yourself rebuked because you're wrong. You belong to God, not creation. Does that make sense? It's weirdly worded. Okay. We are loci of manifestation, and the worshipped one is he who makes us manifest. The engendered existence's locus, the engendered existent, as in existent, apostrophe S. The engendered existence locus of manifestation is his very entity. So take heed. Want some heed? I got a little bit of heed here. If you want to, I can share it. Get you high. No, that's not what heed is, Gwydion. He did not bring me in vain. I've got a vein here. Put my heed in my vein. You know what I'm saying? Inject heed in your vein. No, it's a different vein, Gwydion. He did not bring me in vain, but in order that I should worship him as God. Such is the judgment of law and reason. But I do not worship him except through his form. For he is the God within whom man is concealed. I've heard man, what? God is concealed within man, but he's the God within whom man is concealed. That's like in Zen, where they talk about, am I gazing at the wall? Or is the wall gazing at me? You're gazing at the wall, and you're high. No, yeah, you can get high from gazing at the wall. You don't need a substance like heat in your vein. Where was I? Right, so what is God's decree if you realize our form? And what are control, judgments, and destiny? All are admonitions if you possess reason. He who applies the admonitions will never go wrong. So I think where it's going with this is that if you identify yourself as a servant, you're wrong. Because a servant is a thing that exists in creation. And you do not belong to creation, you belong to God. And we're going to read all about the abandoning of the station of servitude, or servanthood, rather, next time in part 34 of the Meccan Revelations on chicken philosophy. I hope that you had a Merry Christmas this episode. Let's bring back the Christmas music, would you? Thank you. And, is there anything else? I don't think so. So far we've got the blue and black. You remember there was the black Amitabha and the blue Akshobhya, and we went through all the Dhyani Buddhas, or Edward did, right? With reading Carl Jung, Edward's blue. And then there was the red and purple when I read the purple, the Teilhard de Chardin, and we had the Saints Margaret Mary Allo something. And, or was she here? No, she was here. And then Saint Hedwig, the owl, Duchess, Polish Duchess, and French nun were the purple and red. And then after that, of course, there was the orange and yellow, in which B.T. read Martin Luther. And Editor Edward was up here. Remember that? And then last time there was the white and blue, in which we talked about Scotland and other things that are white and blue. Scottish flag, white and blue, you know. And today is green and red. Christmas. Next time on Chicken Philosophy, it's going to be BT doing Carl Jung, which means we're going to have all kinds of craziness going on the screen. Various cards, and BT is yellow and Carl Jung is black, which means it's going to be black and yellow. So, until the black and yellow comes, may you enjoy your Sunday, if you're watching this today. Go with the blessings of Maitreya Amoghasiddhi, Jesus, and the red Christmas ornament. And that's it. We're done here. And until next time. Oh, and don't forget there's an end screen. So click the link in the middle and watch the whole episode. It's not too long. You can watch the whole thing. Yeah, okay, here we go.